Hello, dear viewer. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the great misfortunes yet extreme advantages of never having had a boyfriend at the age of 32. And some of you may be saying, Shelby, why is this a thing? Were you a party animal in your 20s? Did you hook up like a dog in heat back in the day? And the answer is no. I've never been promiscuous. And I believe that the red pillars out there, the toxic masculinity, flag wavers among us, have this idea that if you're single in your 30s, somehow you wasted your 20s being a hoe. I've never been a hoe. I don't have a problem with people that express their sexuality in that way, just to go on record and say that. But that was never my thing. I've never had a one-night stand, and I've only been with one man a handful of times in my entire life, and it wasn't really a serious relationship, but I decided that when I met a man that I was attracted to in my late 20s, I didn't want to be a 30-year-old virgin, so I went ahead and did the deed with him a couple of times. I ended up moving back to my hometown, so I don't get to see him anymore, but we still text every now and then. So here I am, 32 years old. I've never had a boyfriend. And I don't even know if that's such a bad thing, to be honest with you guys. There are so many narcissistic relationships out there. Sometimes I go onto TikTok and I'm just like, oh my gosh. My FYP right now is like filled with all this narcissistic abuse type stuff, and I don't even know why. I haven't searched for it one time. I'm not in a thing where my phone would pick up on anything in the background that's even remotely similar to that, so I don't know what is going on in that regard. But I just think that we see all this stuff with these women that go missing, that get unalived by their partners. The most dangerous person in a woman's life is her intimate partner. You are more likely to be unalived by your intimate partner in your own home than you are in a back alley anywhere else. And I think because I've avoided men, and I've avoided close relationships with men, and I've essentially avoided proximity to men, unless there's certain parameters. It has to be before 10 o'clock at night, and we have to be sober. So I don't hang out with men that drink socially, ever. That's a big red flag for me. I think that drinking socially for me is a huge red flag. That might seem a little bit weird, but I don't really drink at all. I've tried to quit completely, honestly, guys. And I'm going to stick with that. So some of the pros that I like to talk about when it comes to never having had a boyfriend. Imagine a world where your bed is your sanctuary. That's me. Free from chaos of another human being's flailing limbs and their hippopotamus-like snores in the middle of the night. So I've never been awoken by a man flailing his limbs, trying to fornicate with me in the middle of the night. And I've never had to share my bed with anyone that I didn't want to share it with. Truly a paradise for the sloth among us, like I am. I love to sleep in. And I don't like to share my bed. I'm a very light sleeper, so that's one of the great things. And people always ask me, Shelby, when are you going to get a boyfriend? And I said, I'm too busy saving the world from mediocrity by being even more mediocre than the rest of the world. Because if I'm the most mediocre one in the world, then there's anything else anyone can do. So who can argue with that? Also, I don't have to cook for anybody, so that's a positive thing. I can eat whatever I want, and normally I eat the same thing every day. This morning I had beef kidneys for breakfast. I can't imagine having to come home from work and then having to cook for a man, and then having him not like it. I mean, I'm not saying it'll never happen, but I'm saying I've never had to do that so far in my life. And, I'm not a Michelin 5-star chef, so I don't want to, have to be Gordon Ramsay'd when I get home by a picky man that wants me to serve him. I'm not a service-oriented person. I don't know if that comes across in my demeanor, but I sometimes don't even remember to feed myself, to be honest with you, let alone somebody else. And of course, I don't have to share my accounts with anyone. So, not being married, I've avoided divorce, and I've avoided financial exploitation like the plague. Let's go all the way back to when I was 17, when I became attractive, I guess you could say. I was a late bloomer. I didn't go through puberty until I was about 16 years old. So I was the last one to get my period and have curves. So back in 17, like when I was 17, let's say that was like the beginning of my prime as a woman, as the red pillars would have us believe. I looked at my options as a minor, and I said to myself in high school, I'm not dating any of these morons in this school. I was asked out multiple times by multiple different boys. I didn't even go to prom. My mom swore up and down I was going to regret missing out on all these super important high school experiences, but honestly, to this day, I've never regretted skipping prom. Not one time. So, I was never one of these girls that wanted to date an older man as a teenager because I saw how dangerous that was. And another positive thing, several more positive things, is that I entered into my 20s with no relationship trauma from my chosen relationships. Now, I have daddy issues, right? And I was self-aware enough to realize that my daddy issues were going to be causing problems if I ended up choosing a man that was just like him. So I avoided choosing any man at all. I didn't start dating until I was about 24 years old, as a matter of fact. I didn't get my first kiss until 2016. I think that was when I was 23. And I didn't like it at all. My first kiss sucked. It was horrible. It was with a guy that I had met playing Pokemon Go, of all things. And yeah, I just did it to kind of check the box and say that I had had my first kiss and that I had held hands. True stories. So with no romantic entanglements, my heart is completely unscathed. I've never had a broken heart. Much like a rare artifact encased in a glass display, untouched and perfectly preserved, yet at the same time a little bit antique. That's my heart for you guys out there. An antique, untouched artifact. I'm happy about that. I'm happy that I've never been through a brutal breakup. I hear those are horrible. I went through a mental health crisis in my 20s. I can't imagine adding a breakup and a bad boyfriend on top of everything else that I went through. Pass. I can enjoy the delightful company of my own thoughts, which is oftentimes more entertaining than droning on about anybody else's whatever. I don't really like hearing about other people's stuff. I mean, maybe I do. That's probably why I'm alone, though, right? I'm a maladaptive daydreamer, and honestly, my maladaptive daydream boyfriends are more entertaining than any real man could ever be at this point. My first crush was not a real person. It was actually Light Yagami from Death Note. So my first crush was a cartoon character, you guys. I think my first crush was Kovu from The Lion King 2. I'm like, he has no business being that hot as a lion. That was when I knew I was a furry. I was like 10 years old. True. True. So I don't have to deal with his parents either. That's a good thing. No in-law drama. I don't have to deal with anything outside of my immediate obsessions. So my mother-in-law is not hounding me about when we're going to be giving her grandchildren, because I don't have a mother-in-law. And not having any in-laws has been wonderful. My weekends are spent indulging in my pleasures, my guilty pleasures. I'm free from the burden of compromise, and my me time is unmatched. Many of you know that I don't have a job right now, even though I'm currently searching for pretty much anything that'll take me. I've done a couple callbacks, but we'll talk about that differently in a different time. So I reached my college years, and I entered into college, and it turns out that I had severe social anxiety. And the year was 2011 when I entered into college. So in 2011, the discussion about social anxiety and mental health problems was in its infancy. It's nothing compared to like it is today, where everyone is on TikTok talking about how they're crashing out. I had nobody, and I felt completely alone. It was a completely different world for having a mental illness back then. Then a couple months into my college experience, I ended up getting a diagnosis of inflammatory bowel disease, which absolutely nerfed my libido. So I went from being a relatively attractive young woman, so this is kind of me at 32, you can kind of reverse the clock and imagine me. I was never a dime piece, right? But I was cute enough to like get attention and stuff. I still get attention. I'm just not really going out to places where men my age congregate, and typically the only men that notice me in the wild are like these 60-year-old greasy men who are like my parents' age. It's so gross. Boomers are so audacious. It's crazy. The audacity of a boomer never ceases to amaze me. I'm going to make a different video about that. But anyway, I had so much social anxiety that I was paranoid to even tell my roommates to turn the music down. I had no spine, no backbone. I was afraid to stand up for myself. And I was basically getting walked all over by my roommates who were women. So I'm like, what if I had a boyfriend to this situation? What's going to happen? I had this one guy try to make a move on me. He was pursuing me pretty intensely. His name was, I won't even say his name. It started with an A. We'll call him A. And I was not interested in A at all, because I didn't want to get pregnant. I was always paranoid about STDs and pregnancy. I wasn't on birth control back then. I didn't even know how to get there. I mean, I was afraid to make a doctor's appointment even. I was just not ready for anything like that. So a couple more pros is that I've never been SA'd because I don't put myself around men. Now I'm gonna like explicitly say that I haven't been SA'd mostly because I grew up in a nice zip code. So I didn't grow up in the hood. I didn't grow up in the ghetto. I grew up in the metro suburbs of my city that were very nice and very walkable and very nice. But another reason that I've never been SA'd is because I don't go to bars. I don't go to clubs. I don't fraternize with men who use alcohol and drugs. And I don't typically fraternize with men at all unless there's other witnesses present. I don't put myself in situations where a man could have an opportunity to harm me. And I'm not saying that, I'm never blaming a victim here. But I've managed to avoid it in part because of luck, and also in part because I just don't put myself near the enemy that often. I heard about the 4B movement about last year, and I'm like, I wish I had heard about this sooner. This absolutely describes my mentality right now. And as far behind in life as I feel for not having checked these boxes that society wants us to check, like getting married, having a boyfriend, not being single, all this crap. I mean, I feel pretty good about myself despite all that. Especially since the craziness about this narcissistic abuse. Like, you take the Gabby, what's her name? Gabby, the girl that went on to get murdered. There's so many girls that get unalived out there, right? So many girls that get unalived. And I'm not interested in getting unalived. So I feel like my personal safety comes first. My personal well-being comes first, and because of my health problems, both mentally and physically, I couldn't really prioritize intimate relationships. Now, you may be wondering, Shelby, what do you look for in a guy as a single person in your 30s? And I gotta say, health is number one. You have to be in shape, and you cannot be fat. I really don't even care about height. As long as you're my height or a little bit taller, that's fine. So I'm 5'6". So as long as you're like 5'7" or above, we're good. I don't need someone that's 6'6". I'm okay with someone that's 5'7" or above. Physically, the only physical characteristic I honestly care about, you guys, is obesity. You can't be overweight. They say that if you're with someone that's overweight, you're much more likely to become overweight yourself. And I don't want that pressure in my life. I want to be around people that are going to be good influences. And in terms of everything else, I really don't know. I haven't really taken a conscious inventory of what I'm looking for in a man, and that might be a part of the problem. I know that the red pill community would probably call me a leftover woman at this point, or just say that I've hit the wall, I guess. I'm very familiar with all this terminology because I have looked into it myself just out of curiosity and spite. I'm not too worried, I guess. If I end up alone, I end up alone. It would be nice to have an intimate partner to go through life with and do life with, but I'm not looking to have kids at this point. It's a little bit late in the game for me to be considering dating for children, unless I somehow have a baby at 57 or something. I don't know. It would be a while away from now. It's kind of funny that I watch all this like reality TV shows of all these people on exotic islands and tropical paradises just dating and breaking each other's hearts. Oh, there you go. I did mention that I've never had my heart broken, right? So that's a good thing. No STDs, no pregnancy scares, no narcissistic boyfriends, no baggage, no debt. I have no debt, by the way. My credit score is in the 700s, so I got that going for me. So I might not be like a prime 19-year-old, but you wouldn't have liked me when I was 19 anyway. When I was 19, I was insecure, I couldn't hold a conversation, and I was extremely sick and emaciated because of my autoimmune disease. Now look at me, fresh and beautiful and ready to go. I'll probably talk about this more a bit later, but essentially that's going to bring us to the end of the video, I guess. If anybody else can relate to kind of being a late bloomer and never having had a boyfriend at this stage in the game, like, give me some tips on what I need to do to like become a better partner or a potential partner at this point, because I like hearing about late in life success stories when it comes to love. I know I'm not exactly old, but 32 is like a real adult. It's not like I'm a young whippersnapper anymore. And I love the fact for me that I waited until my prefrontal cortex was sealed before I ever laid down with a man, because I made a conscious decision with my logical brain and not my other brain, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of funny to me, like I was saying, that the red pill guys just assume that if you're 30, you're single, that you were promiscuous in your 20s, and that you have a high body count. My body count is 1. I've kissed 2 people in my life. The first guy, I don't even want to count him. The guy that I met playing Pokemon Go. I just kissed him because the opportunity arose, and I decided that it was better late than never. I didn't want to be a kissless virgin, but by the time I was 25. I was still a virgin at 25, but I had had my first kiss. So anyway, guys, I think I'm going to end this video now. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and if you're interested in hearing more about my life and how I live and stuff I do, that would be awesome. We'll talk about that more later, and I'm going to sign off now. Again, my name is Shelby. Welcome to my channel, and I'll see you next time.